back to my channel, sports fans. Okay, let's get into this one right here. Oh, goodness. It's been a lot of shenanigans going on in the NBA. Like always, the media, the LeBron James crew has done it again. And I tell you, people, this is why I stopped making videos every day because we just seem to keep going in the same circle, chasing our tails about the same damn thing about this GOAT debate, about the NBA, about past eras. It's getting boring. Can we just I don't even want to talk about the same thing, but we keep talking about the same thing to try to keep LeBron James' name alive. The guy's in his 22nd season. I mean, either you're the GOAT or you're not the GOAT. And if you're the GOAT, there's nothing to talk about. If you're not, there's nothing to talk about. What we keep having to talk about this stuff. And I don't know how it doesn't get stale. I mean, you go in these Facebook groups, legendary debate, NBA great debates. They got all these different basketball fans only. They just say the same stuff every single day. It's like a new crop of dummies that come every 6 months that repeat everything that the people said 6 months, a year, 2 years ago, and it's all been debunked. It's like when you come in these groups, you should there should be something that you should be able to read or watch or something. This got debunked. This got debunked. This got debunked. Don't say it again. It's over. Stop saying these things. It's been debunked, but you just keep repeating these things over and over again. It doesn't make any sense. Oh, Pippen couldn't win without Jordan. Jordan had all this help, and it's just the same stuff. It's like you guys don't have nothing new. You've been saying the same stuff for about 10 years now. It's so ridiculous. And I think these people just want to be heard, and they just want to. At this point, it's not even a debate. It's not even nothing serious. It's basically people just trying to be funny, because that's what it's been from the beginning, right? It's been about when the Nick Wrights came out, the Shannon Sharps, and the stuff that these guys said, even the JJ Reddicks when he eventually came out. These aren't serious matters or things that you could take serious that these guys are saying. Yes, it's offensive. It's not the truth. And that's what really gets people mad. But in essence, it's just them trying to be funny. Everything they say is just a joke and them trying to be funny because they know what they're saying isn't real. So what it does, it pisses off Michael Jordan fans, past era fans and stuff like that. And that's how these guys make money, not only off of lies, but their lies are just comical. They're just trying to be funny. They're just trying to get this reaction to see what you're going to say. They don't actually believe what they say, but this just keeps them with a job, making money. And if the Jordan fans, especially if the Jordan fans didn't react to none of this, these guys wouldn't have jobs. Well, they a lot of YouTubers, a lot of guys on ESPN, Fox, these guys wouldn't have jobs if Jordan fans wouldn't react to basically the nonsense that doesn't make any sense when you look at it. They're trying to basically tell you that a 4-6 loser with only 2 statistical titles in 21 years, that was his standard of his era, right? And let's remember the 2020s isn't LeBron's era. It's a prolonged era that he's in this era, and he's destroying everybody else's legacy. Basically, right? The guys who this is their era, right? The Giannis's, the Jokers, the Lucas. Maybe we could say the Zions, SGA, Victor Wembanyama. He's basically destroying these guys' legacy, right? Because there's no way that we should be talking about a guy in his really not even in his 15th season. I mean, 15th is like it's way too long. But when we're talking about a guy in his 21st season as the face of the league, and he's already been through everything as far as the NBA Finals, the losing, the winning, all just all this nonsense of his career. And the focus is only on him and now his son. That's weird. It's just weird. Like he's destroying these other guys' legacies that should be getting all the credit. We should be talking about, well, what is SGA going to do next year? What is Luka going to do next year? What is Joker going to do? What is Giannis going to do? What is all these Victor Wembanyama? What's he going to do? We should be talking about these guys' careers. There's not a day or a minute, well, maybe a second. We could be talking about Bronny. We shouldn't even be doing that. But we shouldn't be talking about Bronny and LeBron over these other guys. It's ridiculous. And that's why I made the video. I said, look, Bronny is going to be the next new face of the NBA. And you can scoff at it right now, but the fact that they even have this guy's name in their breath, the media is just telling you right now what's going to be the next new American face of the NBA. And it's just the fact that the NBA is a dying product. And the only way they can keep this NBA alive is basically by drama, right? LeBron's whole entire career has been like a maybe like a soap opera drama type of thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not based on the on-court play. When we look at the ratings, the NBA Finals, it's a telltale of who's watching your league. You know what I'm saying? When we talk about the World Series, when we talk about the NBA Finals, when we talk about the Super Bowl, that's gonna tell us who cares about your sport the most, right? Because it's not just about watching your team in the championship game. It's good if your team's in there, but it's about those fans of that sport will watch that championship game no matter who's in there, because that's the sport they like to watch. But if they don't like the sport no more because of the players in that sport, they're not going to watch it. They're not going to watch it. And according to the ratings in the regular season, the playoffs, and the finals, and on holidays like Christmas, nobody's been watching this. I think they have a game on Martin Luther King Day. Nobody's watching this in the 2020s. And we talked about Anthony Edwards. All he can say is a whole bunch of nonsense now because this is his role. This is what he's been reduced to, right? This is what he's been reduced to, a fool, right? Just to cause a lot of drama and a lot of attention on the NBA. Because look, if you don't have this, all these guys talking this nonsense, nobody's watching this. Nobody wants to see these guys play. I'm not trying to be mean. Nobody wants to watch these guys play. It's according to the ratings. Nobody is interested in the 2020s. Go dig it up. We can go dig it up. You want me to do a video? I'll watch guys who do videos on this, and they go to the regular season, the finals, holiday games, and stuff like that. Nobody has been watching this garbage in the 2020s, and barely in the 2010s, and it started falling off in the 2000s. I mean, that's just it. But maybe the NBA knows that the only way they can keep this thing alive is just turn this thing into a soap opera filled drama, and these guys are no longer really basketball players no more. They're like, they're like entertainers and stuff like that, because nobody is watching this stuff based on the on-court play. People aren't stupid. So let me explain. If you basically, I don't know, if you turn the NFL into a league with basically no defense, let's say flag football, you would have to pull the guy's flag, or to tackle the guy, you can no longer throw him to the ground. You could just grab him like that. That's all you can do is grab him. And what do you think the ratings will be in the NFL? Nobody will want to watch it no more. So in order for their king to finally make the playoffs, they had to what? Outlaw defense. Because the same NBA that Michael Jordan couldn't make the playoffs in 2001, 2003, which we thought he would have if he didn't get injured, that same era of basketball, LeBron James couldn't make the playoffs in 2003, 2004. No, 2004, 2005. LeBron couldn't make the playoff, even with the all-star teammate. So they had to outlaw defense. No more arm bars, no more elbows in the back. And basically, this whole thing really showed itself when they went to the Olympics, right? They went to the '04 Olympics, and they got curb stomped. So the NBA was very concerned at that point. The king is not making the playoffs. These guys are getting curb stomped in the Olympics by plumbers. What are we going to do? What are we going to do for our American superstars? Well, you take the defense out of the game completely, and they can just run roughshod. That's the only choice these guys really had to have these guys look good. And at least back then, you still had people or players that at least gave the effort of playing defense, even though they outlawed it. At least they gave the effort, right? Because a lot of these guys still came out of the '90s or the late '90s, so they at least gave the effort. They knew what defense was. But by the time we got to the 210s, the defense was just ridiculous. And whoever says Steph Curry is the greatest shooter, I'm not buying it. I'm just not buying it because I want to see him be the greatest shooter in the '90s with that kind of pressure on him. Yes, he'll be a good shooter, but no, I just don't believe it's the same. I just don't believe he'll be able to get all them. If you're shooting all those threes like that, man, dudes will come and lock you down real fast. Am I saying they're going to stop him from shooting a three? I'm not trying to say that, but the quality of threes that he'll get as far as the looks in that many, there's no way. There's no way. Because all your 3-point shooters were like basically, yeah, some of them come off screens like Reggie Miller and stuff like that. But for the most part, a lot of these guys were, they were spot up. You were like the last option. A guy would throw the ball to you when you was wide open because nobody really respected the 3-point shooters as far as drivers. So a lot of times they would be wide open. I just can't believe he's the greatest shooter of his era. That's all I can believe. I just don't believe it. I think Michael Jordan is the greatest shooter of all time. The greatest shooter of all time just doesn't mean a 3-point shot. We're talking about all around the whole court. And Michael Jordan, basically, I would say about 95% of his shots were difficult shots. The way Michael Jordan played, you're not supposed to shoot the ball like that. And the way he moved and the way he played, and you're not supposed to be shooting like that. And a lot of guys just can't because you're not supposed to be that fast, that agile, and make these difficult shots at that height. You're not supposed to be that nimble at that height. Look at LeBron James. This guy isn't nimble. This guy isn't agile. He's just a freight train going right to the basket. That's it. There's nothing. He ain't going to give you no footwork. So let's get into this. And, this is the NBA they got now. And it is what it is. And we're going to talk about some stuff that has been going on in another video, like Horace Grant being a Hall of Famer. Oof. So let's look at this. Hall of Fame and top 75 players competition in the East. Well, Michael Jordan was in the East and LeBron was in the East. Well, we know LeBron James went to Miami. Nobody knows why. There really wasn't nobody in the East except for the old Big Three, and he had the number 1 seed over them 2 years in a row. And they had the number 3 and number 4 seed. That's how bad that Big Three was. And basically it was Pippen and Jordan in the this is the championship years. 91 to 93. In 91, Jordan played Robin. This is only in the East. We ain't talking about in the NBA Finals because who cares about the Finals? If you went through the East or your conference and you won, that means you was ready for the Finals. If you're not ready for the Finals in the competition, don't go. Oh man, he played such and such in the Finals. Why'd you go? You went you went to the championship game because you was ready, because you wanted to win the championship. Don't go if you're not ready. The biggest cop-out. Yeah, so Jordan with a bench player coming out of Central Arkansas that nobody knew who the hell he was, no accolades before he joined Michael Jordan as a rookie. Won 3 championships in a row. Only Hall of Fame player on that team. And only made the All-Star team 2 times. In 91, they played Dennis Rodman, Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Charles Barkley. Who is this? Patrick Ewing. So LeBron with his super team, you got Ray Allen, Chris Bosh, and Dwayne Wade. And I know Allen wasn't on here until 2013. But let's also realize LeBron's teammates right here that you see are all number one franchise players of another team. You understand? These teammates, Wade, Bosh, and Ray Allen, all number one franchise players of another team. And were picked top five in the draft. This is what. Oh boy. I mean, this is we shouldn't even have to go over this. This is just like disqualification right here. This guy is actually in a GOAT debate. Wow. So in the 11th season, 2011, he plays the big three: Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce. Now let's remember, at this point, these guys are over the hill. This would be like Michael Jordan and Pippen playing the Boston Big Three. You know, from Larry Bird, McHale, and Parrish. This will be like Michael Jordan in the 91 playoffs playing the Big Three Celtics: Bird, McHale, and Parrish. Not Rodman, Isaiah, and Joe Dumars. No, these guys were younger, way younger. We're talking about the Celtics. Not only that Big Three, Bird, McHale, and Parrish, is because these guys were more broke down, right? They had more. They were more injury prone. They were basically on their last leg. McHale, Parrish, and Bird. And this is what this big three was in 2011. The guys were on. Remember, LeBron was getting the number one seed over them in Cleveland in 2009, 2010. So now he goes and builds a super team just to beat these guys that were already over the hill. They were like in year 12, 10. It was ridiculous. 13. So the next year, Michael Jordan and Pippen plays only Patrick Ewing. Next year, LeBron and his super team plays the big three: Paul George and Carmelo Anthony. Now, let's remember, the big three is even older. Nobody knows why these guys is playing by now. I'm talking about these guys are old. And I didn't write it down, but in a lot of these series, they still was taking, in a lot of these playoffs, they were still taking Miami Big Three to a Game 7. And then you got Paul George, no help. You got Carmelo Anthony, no help. Yeah, Patrick Ewing didn't really have no help, but Michael Jordan only had one Hall of Famer on that team. The next year, Dominique Wilkins, Patrick Ewing. The next year, you had the lonely Paul George. And now LeBron has three number one franchise players on his team. The two wasn't enough, right? And Jordan won 3 in a row out of that. LeBron won 2 out of that. 2 in a row and lost 2 in a row after he played Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett. Now they're in, what was they, with the net? No, they were with Brooklyn, way over the hill, just gone. It would just be like, Michael Jordan and Pippen playing Bird, and McHale at this point. Way over. It's just ridiculous. These guys were just now playing to make extra money. And they played Paul George. So the East is totally just gone. There's no competition in that East. And he left after that. He really didn't have to leave Miami because there was nothing in the East. Even with Dwayne Wade's injuries, he still had a good team in Miami. Chris Bosh ended up playing, 3, 4 more All-Star games. I think Wade played like 2 or 3. They could have restructured some new deals or whatever like that. There's nothing in the East that would have you actually leave Miami as far as competition. So Michael Jordan comes back 96 through 98, and they pick up a rebounder, Dennis Rodman, one of the greatest rebounders, one of the greatest defenders of all time. but not a number one franchise player of another team. And never makes an all-star team with the Bulls. What do we got here? So in '96, Jordan plays Mourning, Tim Hardaway, and Shaq. The big three, another big three, other teams' number one franchise players, Kyrie and Love, this big three plays the lonely Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And I was nice enough to put Jaylen Brown on here because I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. It's easy to see at this point he's better than Tatum. So they play these guys who just came into the league. I think one was a rookie and one was first year or something like that. That's the level of competition that LeBron was playing. And I just asked you to look at this level of competition that Michael Jordan is playing against. As far as, what LeBron's playing against with his big three and other teams' number one franchise players. Right? He didn't go pick up, I don't know, who's a great rebounder of that era, whoever it was, or a great defender. We're going to talk about defense in a minute. So the next season, Jordan plays, I think this is Chris Webber, Alonzo Mourning, Tim Duncan, Chris Webber, Ben Wallace, and Dikembe Mutombo in '97. So that next season, LeBron and his big three plays DeMar DeRozan. Huh. Wow. This guy just said some delusional stuff not too long ago. What was it that James Harden's, I forget what run, was that 2016 or something? Was the greatest run of all time? Or what was it, 18? Some ridiculous stuff. We had all them 30-point games in the no-touch era. So the next season, Michael Jordan plays Chris Mullin and Reggie Miller. That next season, LeBron James plays Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. They just came into the league. I think they were like, what, 2 and 3 year players, something like that. There's your Paul George again with no help, and your DeMar DeRozan. The next year, I think they took them to game 7 or something like that in 2018. The Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and then you got Paul George and you got DeMar DeRozan. Now, what gets me is that LeBron only had the number one seed one time out of all this, right? From 2011 to 2018, only had the number one seed one time with these two super teams. That's crazy. Michael Jordan had the number one seed 5 times, and he won 60 games 5 times. 60 games 5 times. And I think LeBron won 60 games 2 times when he had those number one seeds with those super teams. So you just got to think, if he just went and played with Wade, with no Bosh, with no Allen, I mean, does this guy even have any championships? Is he struggling to make the playoffs? Well, I'm not too sure, because in Cleveland, he did have the number one seed back-to-back years. And they really did play around. They were really about attention to detail, top 5 in defense, top 5 in offense. So he had pretty good teams. The problem was he just couldn't finish. And I think once he knew, when he built these super teams, he could just lollygag around. There was really nobody in that East. Even that big three that he had the number one seed over in 2009, 2010, they were so weak that they never even had the number one. I think they were together 6 years. In Boston, only had the number one seed one time. Yes, they went to 2 finals because LeBron James choked it up. But look, man, I keep seeing this stuff, and they keep talking about how Michael Jordan had these defenders. Dennis Rodman, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Ron Harper. So what I can tell you is defense won championships back then. That's why people try to beat up on the Utah Jazz. but they were about defense first, right? And the offense came collectively on the team. Okay, you gotta look at the teams that beat LeBron James. These teams like Golden State, um, the Spurs, the Mavs. Yeah, some of them were more offensive than the Utah Jazz, but that's just because the defense changed in the NBA when they were playing, right? As far as 2005 on, but as far as playing, fundamentals, in team basketball, those teams that beat LeBron James, the Golden State Warriors, the Mavs, the Spurs, this same team, Utah was just the same, right? They were about fundamentals and team ball, and that's why they beat the Shaq and Kobe's and the Tim Duncans and the David Robinsons and the who is it? Charles Barkley's and the Keem Olajuwons and Clyde Drexler. That's why they beat these teams, right? LeBron James, his teams play off of pure athleticism. So if you get, or his super teams do. So if you get all these guys together, now they're just playing off of pure skill and athleticism. They really don't have to play any defense because their athleticism and skill, it just overpowers you. It just overpowers you. But when you go back and you look at some of these playoff rounds, let me see if I can look this up. I want to see if I can look this up real quick in these playoffs and show you how much these guys were playing around 2011. And it's just the fact that they should have been blowing through all these teams with all the help that LeBron had on these super teams. It's like you should be set NBA records as far as winning games and going undefeated in the playoffs. So that first year when he was with Miami, he was the second seed. In Chicago, of all teams, with only what was it? Rose had the number one seed. So they played Philly, beat them 4-1. Played that super team Boston, beat them 4-1, and played Chicago and beat them 4-1. They beat Chicago 4-1, and Chicago had the number one seed. And then they got beat by Dallas. So let's go to the second year. Second year, they still don't even have the number one seed. Where they at? So they played. The Chicago has the number one seed again with only. This is just a joke, man. They played New York, beat. They got the number two seed. They beat New York 4-1, beat Indiana 4-2, and then went to Game 7 with old ass Boston in 2012. Again, this would be like Michael Jordan, playing Bird, McHale, and Parrish at this point. In what would that would be 2000? That would be in '92. That's what it would be like. Michael Jordan playing them. It would be ridiculous. So they finally get the number one seed in 2013, and they beat Milwaukee 4-0, beat Chicago 4-1. Indiana, they went to a Game 7 with Paul George, and this is when they got Ray Allen. I mean, all this is a joke, man. You can't take LeBron serious. And that's why they barely beat what's the name? They barely beat San Antonio. It's a joke. So they don't have the number one seed 2014. They got the number two seed. And they end up beating Indiana in the Eastern Conference Finals 4-2. And they got beat up in that championship game, gentleman's sweep. But yeah, 2015, the same with his super team. They were a number two seed. They did pretty good there. Let me see, 2016. Yeah, they had the number one seed there. They basically ran through the playoffs there. But what I'm trying to say is, man, he traded traded defense for offense, because in that era right there, you can see the level of competition with his super teams that he's got. There's nobody to play. There's nobody to play. As far as all-time great players, there's really nobody to play, especially, I want to say, especially when you get in 2015 and 2018. But it was even more than that. That Boston Big Three was done. They were dried up. It was over. I'm sorry. They was when he was in Cleveland. They was barely getting by. Remember, they had to build a super team. That's how bad they was. They couldn't do nothing on their own. And once they got that super team, they could barely do anything. Period. So, you guys tell me what you think. LeBron's legacy is the biggest joke in sports history. It's the biggest joke in sports history, and that's why the NBA is the biggest joke, biggest sports league, biggest joke in sports league. How you want to say it? They're just the biggest joke since LeBron came into the league. Tell me what you think.